Hello, everyone. So, welcome to today's session, which is on RC hacks to be provided for how to score really high in the reading comprehension area in CAT 2019. So, as you know, in the VRC section, one of the most important components is the reading comprehension portion. So, in today's session, we're looking at how you can score really well in this portion. Remember, ultimately, RCs constitute 70% of your total verbal section. So this is one area where all of you have to put in a lot of focus. So let us see what are some of the key things that you can do to increase your scores in this section. This is a free live session. So request everybody at the onset itself to take out 1 minute's time to share the session link with all your friends and fellow CAT and MBA exam aspirants in various CAT preparation groups and forums. So request everybody to take out the next 1 minute to kindly share the session link in various CAT groups and forums so that more and more people can benefit from today's free session. So everybody, please take out the next 1 minute to share it in various CAT preparation groups on your timelines and so on while the others join in as we look to get started right away. Hi, good evening, everybody who's joining in the chat window. So please share the session link. So let's get started with today's session. So this is about me portion, and I would like to inform all of you about the ultimate score booster Unacademy Plus courses that are happening in parallel. So for the DILR section, as you all know, I'm a DILR 100 percentiler as well. So in the chat window, I've shared the link to the DILR Plus course. So I've shared the link to the DILR Plus course. Do make sure all of you are attending each and every session live as part of the DILR live classes. In the DILR live classes, this is a complete practice course. So it is not just for DILR, it's for every section of CAT 2019. But what is important is I'll be taking the DILR module as part of it. So I'll ensure that all of your DILR things are taken care of. In addition, we have the Quants Score Booster workshops as well, which are also happening in parallel, and the link for the same is shared again in the chat window. So both of these plus courses are happening in parallel to ensure that all of you are benefiting. So to access this, you need to be subscribed to Unacademy Plus. You can use the discount code Nilanjan Dutta while subscribing. The next session is on Wednesday. That is day after tomorrow at 10 p.m. So make sure if you're subscribed before Wednesday, 10 p.m. So how do you subscribe? So the way to subscribe is these are subscription options. You have the 1 month subscription, the 3 month, which is ideal for those of you looking at CAT, plus ZAT and so on, because we'll have the ZAT decision making course as well. Those of you looking at support for up to the GDPI season can go for the 6 month subscription as well. And for those of you who are CAT 20 aspirants, the 12-month subscription would be ideal. It's the cheapest and the most recommended option. Remember, it doesn't matter which subscription plan you go for. With respect to which one you go for, if you use the code Nilanjan Dutta, you'll get access to the Plus course at a cheaper price. So these prices will go even cheaper using the discount code Nilanjan Dutta. So do make sure all of you are subscribing immediately. So any questions on the Unacademy Plus subscription? Do not procrastinate any further. The next Plus sessions is from Wednesday at 10 p.m. So make sure if you subscribe before that. This subscription involves not just DILR or Quants, but also the VRC portion. All of it is part of a single Unacademy Plus subscription. So whichever subscription you want to, make sure you're using that and you're subscribing as soon as possible, but preferably go for a longer subscription like the 3-month or the 6-month or the 12-month is the ideal subscription plan. So now what we'll do is we'll get started with the RC hacks. So the first thing that you need to keep in mind is how do you attempt an RC passage? So in RC passage, what are the most important thing is how you spend the first 1 minute. So what do you do in the first 1 minute? The first 1 minute of any RC passage, what you try to do is go through the questions and options before you read the passage. The moment I suggest something like this, a lot of you will be wondering, what is the point of going through the question options before you go to the passage? The reason is simple. If I broadly look at the questions in an RC passage, what happens is you have two types of questions. The first type is that which is mentioned in point number 3. That is questions which are referring to a particular line or a particular phrase or a particular para. So these refer to a particular line, phrase, or para, and you have questions like what does the author infer by, or what is the author referring to when he says this particular line, what does the author mean in this particular paragraph, and so on, whether the direct question on a particular portion of the passage. In such questions, the biggest thing is that the entire passage does not matter. All that matters is that particular line, 3 lines before and 2 lines after. The answer is always hidden in these 5 lines. The answer to the question is always hidden in these 5 lines, which automatically means the rest of the passage is immaterial. So the good thing is, assuming that there are 5 questions in the passage, maybe 3 questions will have the form direct questions upon a particular line or para. 2 questions could be like a central idea, central theme of the passage, and so on. So what happens is, in the first 1 minute itself, you know that these are the 3 particular lines in the passage on which you have a direct question. So what do? Since you are aware of the fact that there's a direct question on a particular line, when reading the passage, first time itself, you're alert for that particular line. The moment you encounter that particular line, you stop, you go 3 lines before to 2 lines after, because remember the answer will always be part of these 5 lines. The rest of the passage is immaterial in answering such questions. Now, some might be wondering, how can this help? There are 2 ways. So let's say the options are A, B, C, and D. So usually, I'm sure a lot of you will have seen the biggest challenge that you face in the VRC section, the RC portion, is confusing options. So usually what you'll do is, let's say option A is referred to in these 5 lines So the correct answer will then be option A. But what they'll do is maybe in the last paragraph, they'll mention about option D just to ensure that somebody gets confused between A and D. And in that confusion, a lot of people tend to remember option D because they read it somewhere in the passage and they tend to be confused about the option. So what this technique is doing is this helping you focus on only those lines that matter in the passage, and it's helping you narrow down to the right answer. It's helping you improve your accuracy and at the same time remove confusion that builds up unnecessarily from the rest of the passage. The second advantage is as follows. So what usually happens is if you're reading the passage first, to read the entire passage, we end up spending 5 minutes. And then at the end of reading 5 minutes, we often tend to not recall much of the passage, especially the passage's difficult types. Most of us tend to forget a lot of the passage portions. So what do? We tend to reread certain paragraph or parts of the passage and again end up wasting 3 minutes or so. Or even if we go into the questions, if I have a direct question on, let's say, line number 25, I'm not able to locate line number 25. So I need to again reread the passage to locate line number 25, and then only I can answer the question. So in the process, a lot of time gets wasted in rereading the passage. And that is where most aspirants tend to screw up the VRC section. So the next thing is, then what is the solution to this? What I'm saying is, if you've gone for the question option the first 1 minute, then automatically when you're reading the passage the first time itself, the first 5 minutes itself, you would have encountered that particular line. So the moment you encounter that particular line, you stop, you go into the 3 lines before, 2 lines after, and you answer the question. So what that is doing is, in that first 5 minutes itself, you'd have been done with answering 3 out of the 5 questions in the passage. Also, remember that on average, out of 100% of the passage, 70% of the passage is useless because there's no questions related to it. Remember, your ultimate aim is not to improve your English by reading the passage, but to get the most important return on time for the time you're investing in the passage. And that is where this portion helps a lot. So you're saving on the time front, you're saving on the effort in reading the passage. Often what happens is, let's say para 2 is very difficult to understand. So what we tend to do is we tend to reread paragraph 2. But the idea is, in case there is no direct question in paragraph 2, it doesn't make sense to reread paragraph 2 and waste time. Because remember, only 30% of the passage is relevant, which basically means the level of difficulty of the passage in itself does not matter at all. All that matters is the questions and options. So right from the word go, you're alert for what is required to solve the questions. And at the end of 5-6 minutes, you've been done with 3 questions. And after that, only 2 questions remain. So those 2 questions are of the type tone of the passage, theme of the passage, central idea in the passage, and so on. So the question is, how do we answer such kind of questions? In such kind of questions, we again have a very strict formula, which is as follows: last paras, first 2 lines, last paras, last 2 lines, and first paras, first 2-3 lines. So that is all that matters to answer these questions. Ritu, that is exactly what I'm saying. To answer questions on tone, theme, and central idea, it is hidden here. Last paras, first 2-3 lines, last paras, last 2 lines, and first paras, first 2-3 lines. The answer, the right option, is always hidden here. The rest of the passage is immaterial when it comes to answering such questions. But intentionally what they'll do is, in case there is an option C hidden here, they'll give you another option called option D, which is mentioned somewhere else in the passage, just to ensure that you get confused, and some of you mark option D. Now, somebody wondering, why does this technique hold? So you might have seen that if you've done things like essay writing, they tell you that in essay writing, what you're supposed to do is, in the first para, you're supposed to introduce your topic of the passage. What is your take on the thing? And as you go to the last para, your aim is to conclude and give your opinion on the passage. That is exactly what we are trying to hit at. And that is the only reason why this technique works. The last para is giving you the opinion of the author, as well as what is the author ultimately trying to conclude in the entire passage. The first para setting a bit of a context for the same. So the only challenge is that in very rare occasions, what happens is, it might happen that the last para is suggesting a different option from the first para. In that case, always give a priority to the last para, because remember, last para is where the author is expected to summarize with his final verdict. It's just like an essay writing that you do. In your final para, you're expected to keep your conclusion, your opinion, your thing very clear. Even if you want to clear the suspense at the start, at the end, you have to make sure that it is coming out very clearly. And that is exactly why, in case there's a confusion, then you always give priority to the last para's first two and last two lines. And that is how you can solve tone or theme of passage questions. So basically, the two broad type of questions that are there, that is 3 questions on an average from author info by, where there's a direct line or para or phrase in the thing, as well as the other type, which is on the entire passage, like a tone, theme, central idea, author imply by in the passage, or trying to convey what message of the passage. You can answer by just doing these 5-6 lines. So the broad idea is what I said, only 30% of the passage is ultimately relevant when it comes to scoring marks. So what this is doing is not only increasing your accuracy, but you're able to solve passages quicker, because you do not need to bother about reading the entire passage to answer a particular question. So I heard somebody, Mohit, I think, was asking a question on what about questions like, which of the following is true or not true according to the passage. So Mohit, first 1 minute, what did you do? You went through all the questions and options. So now you know the options A, B, C, D. So you have that ingrained in your mind when you're reading the passage for the first time. So suddenly, let's say in the second para, you come across point B, which means point B is mentioned. So strike that out. Suddenly, maybe in the fifth para, you come across point D, which means D is mentioned. Maybe in the last para, let's say you come across point C. So C is mentioned, which means A is the one that is not true. So again, you're not having to evaluate at the end of the passage. While going through the passage itself, your entire focus is on, okay, fine, there's a direct question on this, and you're entirely focused on that portion. So that's what I asked Amazing Ahmed. The same thing only I answered. What about the accept and true false questions? So it's very similar to what I answered to Mohit. So the basic idea is you should be able to do the passages a lot quicker and get through the questions as well. Because remember, I hear a lot of people saying that I read the first para, and then when I went to the second para, I forgot what was there in the first para. So imagine after reading 7-8 paras, you'll not remember much of the RCs when you're ultimately facing the questions. Whereas in this technique, when you're facing the questions, you're totally focused on the content in the passage. Incidentally, in the complete practice course for CAT 2019, the link which I've shared in the chat window is in the pin section of the chat window. What you'll find is exactly these kind of tricks are taught not just for VRC, but for every section, how you can solve questions much more faster and quicker as well. So do make sure all of you are attending. It's a weekend batch. So every Saturday, Sunday, we have those sessions, including sessions for verbal. So make sure all of you are attending each of the sessions. And to attend the sessions, all you need to do is use the discount code Nilanjan Dutta while subscribing. So we just choose your subscription plan, 3-month or maybe 6-month or 12-month. Doesn't matter which one you choose. Even if you choose the 1-month plan, use the code Nilanjan Dutta and you're good to go. So how do you get the discounts? So here in this section, you choose your subscription plan, let's say 12 months. Here they'll ask you for a referral code. You enter the code Nilanjan Dutta and the space between Nilanjan and Dutta. You click on apply and the code will apply successfully. The discount will apply, the price will drop. But make sure all of you are doing that immediately. The next class is on Wednesday at 10 p.m. So meanwhile, anybody have any other questions on the 4 techniques that I talked about before I move on to the next set of techniques on how to solve RCs better? So any questions thus far? Karishma asked a question on what kind of help is for GDPI. So you'll have GDPI plus courses as well. Okay. So just subscribe for 6 months. Make sure you subscribe for 6 months. I'll cover your CAT, ZAT, and GDPI. Look, one thing, Abhinav, stop worrying too much about whether the passage is on philosophy, whether the passage is on psychology, sociology, and so on. Remember, that is not very important. What is important is the questions and where you can answer the questions. So focus on that. So Simran, the question that you said about the entire passage, that is what is the profession of the author? Again, the hints will come in from the last para and the first para. The hints will come in and last part, first part, and of course the options that are given in the passage. So you've got to eliminate the options and go with last. So any question which is specific, you go by this technique, that is 3 lines before, 3 lines, 2 lines after. Any question which is generic for the passage, you go for the entire. Go for the last para's first 2 lines, last para, last 2 lines, and first para's first 2-3 lines. So a lot of you are asking me to summarize what I've said. So I'll just summarize that in 2 minutes. So the first 1 minute of any RC passage, what you should be doing is going through all the questions in the passage, all the question options, because the questions broadly are of 2 types. One is questions where they're pointing the particular line, phrase, or paragraph in the passage, and they're asking you a direct question. So in such cases, all you need to do is look 3 lines before to 2 lines after that particular line, and the answer is always hidden there. The reason why you should restrict to only these 5 lines is 2 reasons. One, it'll save you time, which means since you've gone for the questions already, you're reading the passage, the first time when you're reading the passage itself, you can answer the question by stopping at that particular line where you've seen there's a direct question, go 3 lines before, up to 2 lines after, and mark the right answer. Also, what they usually do is they try to give one option from this 5 lines, like let's say option A, and they'll intentionally plant another couple of options, like let's say option D, somewhere in some other paragraph, just to ensure that the student is confused. So avoid that confusion as well. So it's helping you on the accuracy front. It's ensuring that all the other distractions in the form of other incorrect options are getting taken away as well. The other type of question is on tone, theme, central idea of the passage. Is based on an entire passage, or maybe things like source of the passage and so on. For that, what matters is the last para's first two lines, the last para's last two lines, and the first para's first two, three lines. So usually for tone, theme, central idea, and so on, as you know, just like when you write an essay, it is always said that what you should do is try and introduce the idea at the first para, and then in the last para, make sure that you're summarizing your opinion. So opinion is what comes in the last para, hence the priority is being given to the last para. However, for things like source of the passage, for source of the passage, again, the same thing will hold. But for source of the passage, the first para has equal priority as the last para. So all three are important, but the first para is equal priority, because usually in source of the passage, often they might quote the source towards the starting of the para. Whereas for anything which is on the, what is the author trying to convey, like the tone, theme, central idea, and so on, there the last para always gets the priority. But all that matters is, again, these 5-6 lines. The rest of the passage is immaterial in this kind of questions. So I'll just take up a few questions that I can see that are there on the screen. Paraphrasing after reading a passage. Can you be more specific on whatever question you're talking about? If there's something which is on a particular line or a particular paragraph, then only that line or paragraph matters. The rest of the passage does not matter. If they are talking about the entire passage, then basically they're talking about a central idea. If it's referring to the entire passage, then it's basically a central idea. If you're talking about a particular line, then again, that's just that paragraph or that 3 lines before or 2 lines after. That's it. This is very the same as the central idea, basically, of the passage. Karishma has a question. Source of the passage I've already discussed. Same thing Ashish also had. So the passage, again, you go with the last line and first line. The only thing is, through the passage, the first line, first para, and the last para have got equal weightage. Because often we tend to look at introduce the source of the passage at the start of the thing as well. You will never introduce source of the passage in the middle. Is that clear, everybody? Any questions thus far before we move ahead? So Kajal, just talking about continuing the passage. So this is dependent on what? Last para. Continuing the passage is basically a continuation from the last para. Correct? So what do? Last paras, first 2 lines, last paras, last 2-3 lines. That's it. First para and all doesn't matter. Because remember, this is talking about a continuation of the passage. In case you have a confusion, then go with the last para, last 2-3 lines. For example, let's say you're confused between option A is being suggested by last para's first 2 lines, option B is being suggested by last para's last 2-3 lines, then go with option B. Because the continuation is directly happening again with the last para's last 2-3 lines. Rohan, passage title is very similar to this one, tone or theme. So based on the first three line para or first two three lines, the last para, first two and last two lines, you've got to look at the paragraph title. The last para will still have priority in case you're ever confused, in case you're looking at conflicting options. So do make sure all of you attending all the classes, including the VRC classes that are being conducted as part of the complete practice course for CAT 2019. So there, all the sections are being covered, and I am being one of the top educators in that particular batch course where all the sections are being covered. That is VRC, DILR, and Quants. So make sure all of you attending every session live as part of that course, where we'll be actually solving sets, questions, and passages in each of these areas. So make sure everybody attending every session live as part of that course. It's part of the Unacademy Plus subscription. All you need to do is use the discount code Nilanjan Dutta while subscribing. That is my name with no space between Nilanjan and Dutta. So let's move on to the next part. So for those of you who are part of CAT 20 aspirants, this is not applicable for CAT 19 aspirants that much. For CAT 20 aspirants, try and read diverse type of passages across spectrums of economics, sports, science and technology, sociology, and philosophy. For CAT 19 aspirants, simply what you do is look at RC passages from maybe past year mocks and so on. Why? Because automatically in past year mocks, they'll ensure that the passages are evenly distributed across various areas. So this thing will automatically get taken care of in such exams. So Karishma, in case you are a CAT 19 aspirant, don't focus on reading articles. Now is not the time to read articles in the next 14 days. In case you're a CAT 20 aspirants, then make sure that reading articles from any of the good newspapers, editorials, and so on. Hindu is supposedly the best. TOI is also something you can look at. Also, I hope you're part of the Unacademy Plus subscription, where as part of the VRC live classes, we do talk about which are the articles or good passages to read and so on. So make sure that you're part of the live classes. So here's the link. So make sure you're clicking on it and subscribing and attending every session live. The other thing, that is the concept of speed reading. So this is something I hear a lot of people talking about, speed reading. But remember this, speed reading is a myth. Ultimately, it's not really required that you glance the passage and you read everything in 1-2 minutes. That can never happen. I'd rather say invest good enough time in reading. Don't read very slowly, but make sure you're reading and understanding the passage and you're focusing on the questions that are there at hand. Now, someone might ask me, is the question-based approach the best way of solving VRC? My answer will be no. It is not the best way. Whatever I said today is not the best way of solving VRC. That is not the best way to improve your English. For improving English, that is not the best way to do it. But if you ask me, will that help you maximize your scores in CAT? The answer is definitely will increase your scores drastically in CAT. So if your aim is to increase your scores in CAT 2019, then this will really, really help you a lot. But talking about improving your English, it will not improve because you're not reading the core essence of the passage. So level of difficulty of VRC sections has come down, Mohit, in the recent years. So they've kept the English section a lot more simple. They've pressed more upon the options in VRC. The next important thing is how much time do you take per passage? So the approximate time would depend obviously on the number of questions in the passage. So in case the passage has 3 questions, approximately 7 minutes is a good attempt. 4 questions, 9 minutes. 5 questions, 10 minutes. 6 questions, 11 minutes. If you look at the ratio of minutes to questions, you'll find the ratio keeps reducing as the number of questions increases. Karishma, apply these techniques in every RC passage. So obviously, yes, Roshni, you're absolutely right. The more the number of questions in a passage, it is always better, which is why always choose the passages with the highest number of questions. So choose the passage with the highest number of questions because that will give you the maximum return on time. Also, make sure that you're not reading the passage too many times and wasting time. In the first 1 minute itself, you know what are the questions that are being asked, and you're focusing only on those respective, that 30% of the passage. So broadly, if you look at this, we are looking at an average of 2 minutes per question. So Ekansh, a good attempt in VRC is 30 plus questions. So that basically means 24 RC questions. Out of the remaining 10 questions, do the 6 or 7 questions which are of odd one out, para completion, para summary, and so on. Or in case there's a grammar question, that as well. Leave out those 3-4 questions which are on para jumbles based arrangements like BDCA and so on. Avoid these kind of questions. Attempt all the other 30 odd questions. Once you're done with everything, then only move into para jumbles. Ideally, avoid para jumbles because as you can see, there are 5 sentences, which means 5 factorial or 120 possibilities. What does 120 possibilities mean? The chance of getting it correct is 1 by 120, which is less than 1%. Imagine you have less than 1% chance of getting a particular question correct. That means ultimately it's unnecessary and waste of time in trying to do this. I understand that there's no negatives here, but that doesn't mean you waste your time, especially reading 5 sentences is time consuming, where the chance of getting it correct is less than 1%. So focus on the other type of questions. Parajumbles involve odd one out. Attempt those because there you just need to answer one odd alphabet. You need to maybe type in A or B or C or D, which one is the odd one, which is basically equivalent to an MCQ question. So the topics are odd one out, para completion, para summary. Sometimes you have grammar questions, FIJs like facts, inference, judgment, and so on. Parnidhi, you know what are the best advantage of the approach that I'm talking about? The best advantage is it is helping you in multiple ways. One, your accuracy in RC is improving, correct? Second, the time taken to solve the RC is reducing. Third, if the time taken to solve the RC is reducing, then automatically you can attempt all the 5 RCs in the exam, which automatically means the time spent in selecting RCs is not even required in the exam. You ultimately don't even need to spend any time in selecting the RCs, because ultimately the fact that you're saving time is helping you solve more RC passages. So it's a win-win situation in every dimension. Your time taken to solve an RC is going down. Your ability to attempt more RCs is going up. The time wasted in selecting RC passages is not required. So you're saving time there as well. And your accuracy is going up. So that is why these RC hacks can really, really boost your scores drastically. In fact, this 1 minute technique of going through the question and options at the start of an RC passage is not just limited to VRC. In DLR as well, I entirely stress upon this very concept. So in fact, in the last 10 days to CAT 2019, I've started this new DLR Plus course, which is a link I've shared in the chat window, where again, I'm stressing on the same thing, how you can do for DLR as well. So in DLR as well, you can solve greater than or equal to 6, preferably a 7th or an 8th set, because that is what is minimum expected of an Unacademy Plus student. So make sure, at least in the next 2 weeks, every live session on DLR you're attending, because there I'm teaching the same thing, how to do for DLR as well. And on Wednesday session, the same thing for Quants. Nishant, in case they are saying which of these is false, the only type of question where they might say more than one is true is which of these is false or not mentioned in the passage, right? So what you've done is at the start of the passage itself, you've gone through the 4 options. So when you're going through the passage first time, you remember options A, B, C, and D. Let's say you located option B in the passage, so eliminate that. Then you located option D in the passage, immediately eliminate that. And then let's say you located option A in the passage, eliminate that, which means C is not mentioned in the passage. So right away, again, you're not wasting time and reading the passage every time, looking for options. You are knowing the option at the start of the passage, and in your first read itself, you're being able to eliminate. These are there. This one is not there. Piyush, first thing, the reason why the option confusion is there is because we tend to look at what is there in the entire passage. So as I said, every question's answer lies in only 5-6 lines. So try and focus on which option is there in those 5-6 lines. If in those 5-6 lines, option D is mentioned, then D is the right answer. Don't bother too much about option A, which is maybe mentioned somewhere else in the passage. And that is the reason why people get confused. What happens is, often when we read in a sequence, maybe we tend to recall what we read in the last 2 paragraphs, last paragraph, and so on. And even though the direct question is on maybe paragraph 3, we tend to mark option A because we recall reading option A recently. So that thing needs to be reduced, that worry. Still, if you want to choose passages, attempt passages in sequence of highest number of questions. So the other thing, so there are, let's say, 5 RC passages. So next thing is, do I attempt all RC passages together? So ideally, for most of you do not have too much of reading habits, I would say start with 2 RC passages, then do 3-4 questions from VA, then again do 2 RC passages, then do 3-4 questions from VA, then attempt the last RC passage, and then if you have any more time, do those parajumbles. Otherwise, forget it. Parajumbles, anyways, you'll not get them right. So is it clear how to sequence your RCs as well? And as I said, the timing you take on RCs should be something similar to this. So make sure that you're practicing that right from now. So Nishant, as I said, first 1 minute, remember this, 70% of passage is irrelevant as far as questions. So don't waste time rereading the lengthy portions of the passage. No, only wherever you see something relevant, focus on those portions. There's a direct question, or it's the first para, last para, focus there. You don't want to reread only those portions where there's a direct marks involved. And please make sure all of you are attending every session live as part of the complete practice course for CAT 2019. Make sure all of you are attending every session live. So this is the course I'm talking about, the practice for CAT 2019. It's going to happen till November 23. We have live classes as part of this course. Make sure in the next 12-14 days, even if you have procrastinated already, make sure in the next few days you are making sure you're attending every session live. Make sure not just for VRC, all the sections is basically a course for the first time on Unacademy Plus. I'm having a course covering all the subjects. Make sure you're attending live. It's available on Unacademy Plus using the discount code Nilanjan Dutta. Also, I'll be covering the entire DILA module as well as part of this course where I'll be showing you how to do these techniques quickly. So what you need to do is be subscribed to Unacademy Plus. Preferably the 3-month subscription will be ideal because that will cover you till CAT plus ZAT and IIFT and the other exams. The 6-month will cover you till the GDPI season, which is ideal for CAT 19 aspirants. CAT 20 aspirants, make sure subscribing right away for a 12-month subscription. It's the cheapest subscription on a per monthly basis as well, much cheaper than the other options. So make sure you're going for it right away. In case somebody has any affordability issues, at least go to 1-month subscription. I don't want to hear excuses after CAT 2019 saying you weren't aware of these techniques, but I want all of you to do really well. And further, you have the luxury of using my personal discount code Nilanjan Dutta while subscribing. And that includes my Quants course, the workshop as well. That is also part of the same course. So you'll find the link pinned in the chat window, and I've also shared it in the chat window for your advantage. The same code will work, Nilanjan Dutta, one code. You get subscribed and you can attend all these live sessions. So just to your subscription plan, let's say you're doing a 12-month subscription plan. Here in the referral code section, enter the code Nilanjan Dutta. In fact, I would recommend you to do it right away. So in the next 5 minutes, in case you have any confusion in how to use the code, you can ping me in the chat window and get subscribe right away so you do not miss any more live sessions. It'll say code apply successfully, the discount will apply, and you will be good to go. The final point is the most important point that you need to keep in mind in the next 12 to 14 days. That is practice more of RC passages. Practice more RC passages using the approach that I mentioned about today. Make sure you're mastering this technique of how to solve RC passages quickly and within this time-bound fashion. So practice more of past mocks and analyze the solutions thoroughly, including your current mocks. You need not take too many mocks in a week. Just taking 2 mocks in a week, one in midweek and one during the weekend, is more than enough But what is more important is you analyze those mocks in details. You practice out of RCs, preferably practice 3 RCs daily. It doesn't matter. You need to get a lot of time, even if you have 10-15 minutes free in between at work, or maybe while traveling, or maybe when at home you're just feeling lazy and you have 10-15 minutes of time. Try and eke out an RC passage, try and solve it by yourself, look at in detail the solutions, and understand. You might have noticed that in RCs, what they usually tend to do is in the solutions, they tend to give you detailed reasons why option A is incorrect, why option B is incorrect, why option D is incorrect, and then they tend to explain why option C is correct. So focus a lot on that aspect of reading comprehension, that is understanding why the particular option that you marked or did not mark is right or wrong. It doesn't just matter whether you got 3 correct, 1 wrong, or whether you got 2 correct, 2 wrong. What matters is next time they give you similar kind of options, you should not be confused, which means even if you were confused between C and D and you mark the right answer as C, which is also the right answer, it's still important for you to understand why option D is incorrect. So any other questions on VRC, on the reading comprehension portion? VA we can discuss maybe in some later session. Any questions on RCs, how to score high? Any other queries anybody has? So please shoot your queries, all those who are live, to use the chat window to shoot all your queries. So you've got to understand this, Rohan, that score fluctuations in VRC tend to happen because in VRC, you might have seen, it's an option-driven centric approach, which automatically means it is more than solving. It's an option-centric approach, which means a bit of accuracy is not in your hands completely. So all you can do is attempt more passages and try and improve your accuracy by filtering out options. More than that, you cannot do much. So whatever the accuracy, you've got to increase your attempts for everybody. At least 30 questions have to be attempted. The easiest way is what I said. In case you're attempting the way I mentioned in the session and your accuracy is going up, your time taken per passage is going down, you're being able to attempt all RCs. At the same time, you're not wasting time in selecting RC passages. Aryan, for logical reasoning, just make sure that you're attending every session live as part of this ultimate score of the course for Practical CAT 2019, where I'm personally making sure of the DLR section. I'm personally making sure the DLR section as part of this course. So do make sure you're attending every session live. I hope you're subscribed to Unacademy Plus. If not, subscribe immediately. Whichever plan of these suits you, it's fine, but just make sure you are being a part of any of these subscription options. Preferably the longer the subscription plan, the better it is and the cheaper it is for you. And do not forget to use the discount code Nilanjan Dutta while subscribing. So this course is intended to give all of you a plus 20-25 marks boost in every section. And I know a lot of you missed a number of sessions, but please don't delay and procrastinate further because there's only 12 odd days to go to CAT. So make the most of these days. So Abhishek, in odd one out is similar to parajumble. So what you do is look for sequences like continuation sentences and identify the continuations. So if you get one continuation, that means two options get out, and then out of the remaining two, you've got to take a chance. Look at which can be connected to any one of the two that you've chosen. Charisma, mocks can be any two out of IMS, Time, and CL. Also, if you're part of the Unacademy Plus subscription, you get access to Unacademy mocks as well. Charisma. So make sure you're subscribing with a 12-month subscription right from today, because this will take care of all your live sessions, all your sections, your mocks, everything. Strategy sessions, everything. Just make sure you're subscribing with the discount code Nilanjan, so you get it at an even more cheaper price than whatever's quoted here. And you're going for a 12-month subscription. Karishma. Also, you get access to the Quants Co-Booster workshops as well as part of the same Unacademy Plus subscription. No extra charges, no extra subscription. It's just one-time subscription. You're subscribing here. The link can be shared in the chat window, but you get access to the Quants Co-Booster workshops as well, where I'm personally ensuring that across the entire spectrum, arithmetic, algebra, modern math, geometry, as well as numbers, all of you are getting good techniques to increase your scores. But again, 20-25 marks approximately in Quants. Use the same code Nilanjan Dutta subscribing to get access to the same. So basically, choose a subscription plan, and after choosing a 12-month subscription, let's say, use here in the referral code section, type Nilanjan Dutta, there's no space in Nilanjan and Dutta, click on apply, and you're good to will see apply successfully. The discount will apply, and you can check out. Even if you cannot afford a longer subscription, make sure you're going for at least a 3-month till ZAT, or the 1-month subscription at least, to make sure you're not leaving any stones unturned for CAT 2019. Anshuman, when your scores are fluctuating, it's very obvious. You've got to increase your attempts. Note accuracy. You can try to improve your techniques that I said in RCs, but in general, accuracy is something which is not totally in your hands. Nobody intentionally marks the wrong answers, which means you need to focus on increasing your attempts. Also, in VRC, especially where accuracy is difficult to attain, make sure that you're wielding out planted options. So, for example, I gave you a lot of scenarios where maybe option B is mentioned in that particular region and D is mentioned somewhere else in the passage. Do not get distracted by option D just because you read it somewhere. So avoid that urge. Similarly, in DILR, a lot of time what you can do is, even if you cannot solve the passage, solve the set, you can mark the answers. And this is something I stress upon a lot in the DILR live classes. That is how to solve more questions and sets in less time, how to do option-based solving and smart guessing. That is where you're not being able to solve a set or a question, how do you still get your maximum marks. So previous year questions are discussed in the Unacademy free channel. You can also get them by Googling. You'll also get them on an Unacademy free channel, including the solutions. You'll also get them on Unacademy Plus. Karishma. So the link is there. You can just go to it and you can be subscribed for a 12-month subscription. You'll get access to all of that. In the live classes also they are discussed, including the mock solutions are also discussed. So IMS mocks, I do discuss sometimes on my Unacademy free channel. So you can resort to that as well. Okay then, thanks everybody for your time. Just make sure that all of you are immediately subscribing, because the next session is on Wednesday at 10 p.m. So before that, do not delay any further. Make sure all of you are using the discount code Nilanjan Dutta while subscribing. Whichever subscription plan suits you, preferably go for the 12-month or the 6-month till the GDPI season. Whichever one suits you, make sure at least saying subscribe and in the next 12 days, you're making the most of the Unacademy Plus subscription and attend all my sessions live starting from Wednesday, 10 p.m. We also have a session on Thursday, 10 p.m. and so on. Make sure all of you are attending them live. All the very best for CAT 2019. So hope to see all of you in the live class on Wednesday at 10 p.m. On that note, thank you everybody and happy learning.